All I'm going to do is grab a handful of it and yank it out of the ground. You see all that powder coming off of there, just exposing those fibers. All right, here we go. Corporals Corner midweek video number 36. Building the ultimate Tinder bundle. Let's get to it. All right, bird's nest or Tinder bundle. In a future video, we're going to cover the differences between those two. One simply takes an ember and creates a large ember to start a fire. The other one is basically a mini campfire that you can place on the ground and build a fire on top of it, meaning stacking sticks and logs, intertwining them, creating that chaos that fire enjoys. So again, in the future, we'll get to both of those. Today, I want to talk about building the ultimate Tinder bundle. Now, keep in mind where you live is going to be different materials, and we're going to briefly touch on that as well. Far too often, people get caught up in this world of, I'm on the West Coast, it has to be cottonwood or juniper. I'm on the East Coast, it has to be poplar bark or it's not going to work. But in reality, what you're looking for is properties of materials. You might be in the Midwest and not have a cottonwood at your disposal. You might not have a poplar, but you have something similar that you can use and actually make the same thing. So out here on the East Coast, I'm going to show you ready available materials, not necessarily from trees, although some will be, but common weeds and stuff that lay on the ground that you can use to create a bird's nest or Tinder bundle that's guaranteed to work. So here we are, we're back at the scene of the crime from last week's video. It was titled, Solo Overnight Cowboy Camping in an Open Air Shelter. Most missed it, most weren't notified. So if you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. In that video, we built a windscreen to block the wind coming from the east direction. We had a fire pit out front, and we had a nice thick 4 to 6 inch grass mat wrapped in our poncho to keep it water resistant, waterproof. Now we're here today because I want to go ahead and utilize some of this grass. We'll walk over to the field over here and I'll show you where the grass is. And it's just nothing more than small stalks of weeds, okay? This is found all over the United States. When you build a bird's nest, more importantly a Tinder bundle, you want to go from coarse material, medium material, and then ultimately that fine material. And the fine material is going to pick up first, get that spark or that ember, and then transfer to the medium and then the coarse. So here's the problem with something like this. It's very difficult for flint and steel to catch this, meaning throwing sparks on it, or a ferrocerium rod. Not saying it won't happen. It probably will. After about third, fourth, fifth strike, you can probably get it to work. But why waste the material or resources that you have? Now if you have a Bic lighter, you can go ahead and light this up and it will catch. Just like that, okay? But let's say you don't have access to this and you want to guarantee this flame with, say, a bow drill or something smaller like flint and steel. The problem comes into play with these waxy stalks. It's very difficult to get a spark to jump onto that. Even me lighting this with a Bic lighter, it wants to go out. I'm going to have to keep playing with it and play with it and play with it. And if it goes out, hit it again 2 or 3 times. But this is perfect for the outer shell that's going to form a bird's nest or a Tinder bundle. Like we talked about earlier, most schools or places you go learn from, they want you to get caught up in this number of trees, or you got to use this tree for this or this tree for that, and you learn the properties that way. And that's all fine and dandy and good and well. But again, if you're from the West Coast and you're going to school on the East Coast, or you're in the East Coast taking desert training in Arizona, you're not going to have those types of trees. So we're looking for properties of materials. And what's behind me and all over the ground? And that's all over the United States. Weeds. So let's go pick some. So I have in my hand the exact same material that we used to make our grass mat in last week's video. All I'm going to do is grab a handful of it and yank it out of the ground. I want to look at it. I don't want anything green. I don't want it to be wet. and I don't want any mud on it. This here is dry as a bone, and a good handful of it is all you're going to need. Now this is going to be used for our coarse material. Take a little bit of this off here. All we're going to do, actually have enough for two. We'll split it in half. So all we're going to do here is we're going to take the halfway point and we're going to bend it like a horseshoe shape and then tuck it inside of itself, kind of like how a pretzel is, and create a bottom. That way it resembles an actual bird's nest or a tinder bundle. Pretty much they start off the same way. You want to create a small bowl that's going to hold everything. That way it's not going to blow out the back of it. And there's your indentation like a bowl. The back is covered. We have our coarse outer shell. Now we work on the medium to fill this area, and then ultimately the fine that goes on top. So now the fortunate thing is this will take a spark and this will light easily with a Bic lighter, but I want to use it for the medium portion of my bird's nest or tinder bundle. We're going to just work it around and expose all of these fibers, and I'm going to simply place it into the center of that tinder bundle that we made. You see all that powder coming off of there? Just exposing those fibers, and this is a perfect amount. We're also conserving resources. That small piece that I had will actually work for 2 bird's nests or 2 tinder bundles. And like I said, we're conserving resources for a later use that you just carry out with you, toss it in a pack, and you got one for next time. Now taking our medium portion, we're going to place it into our tinder bundle. And this will take a spark. However, I want to guarantee no matter what ignition method I use, it's going to work. So now we're going to look for some fine material that's guaranteed to take a spark. We went from our outer coarse shell to our medium filler, and let's talk about the fine that goes on top. How you approach this is whatever process you're using, you want it to be guaranteed to work. So if I'm using a bow drill and I have a small powdery ember, I want the top fine material to create a large ember. If I'm using a ferro rod, I want whatever's on there, like say we're going to use some pine sap or some fat wood from a pine tree, I want it to be able to take those sparks. If I'm going to place a piece of char material or char cloth in there, I want the heat to build up enough to where it's going to ignite whatever I use. So you got to keep in mind that when you build a bird's nest or a tinder bundle, in this case, I want it to facilitate every single process. So someone's going to say it because they skipped through the video and they didn't listen, or they're trying to be an expert in something they have no idea what they're talking about. Someone's going to say, well, I could just use that entire piece of fat wood and got a fire started. You could have. Someone's going to say, well, I could just use that entire piece of cottonwood bark or aspen bark or poplar bark and we could have had a bird's nest done in 2 minutes. You could have, but then what would you have? Neither one of these. We started the video off with conserving resources. I now have 80% of this piece of fat wood. I still have the other half of that poplar bark. I still have half of what? The weeds I collected. So what can I do? I can stuff all those into a pack or a haversack or a day bag, and I can light a fire elsewhere if I'm traveling, or if the fire were to go out, I can do it again. So you got to think ahead. Where you're going, those resources might not be there, so you want to take full advantage of them and collect as you go. Then you want to conserve those resources so that you have it for future use. And now we're going to take our fine material and place it inside here. This will take an ember from a bow drill. This will take a piece of steel wool. This will take char material or char cloth. It will take a Bic lighter. And it will take sparks from a ferro rod. So like we already covered, your bird's nest or tinder bundle needs to be able to facilitate any method of ignition that you choose to use. And in my opinion, a bow drill or a hand drill ember are probably the hardest ones to actually make in the woods and actually get done properly and actually ignite your bird's nest or tinder bundle. So I'm going to go ahead and test that theory. I'm going to use an ember. We're going to transfer it to our makeshift tinder bundle, ignite our fat wood, which will ignite the poplar bark, and then finally ignite the outer shell and get her done. And there we go. Ignite the fat wood, poplar bark, and then our outer shell. Just like that. And I've said it 1,000 times. So simple, it's stupid. Follow me for more quick tips, conservation of resources, and most importantly, common sense. Now, I have this zip hoodie. Corporals Corner zip hoodies are now available in my Etsy store. That link is inside my video description box. Just go there, click on it. We've dropped in 100 more for this week. Check it out. Once we hit, I want to say mid to late spring, we're going to be done with all the jackets and hoodies. So you want one, grab yours today. The pullovers there are there as well, but most importantly, you guys wanted zips, and guess what? I gave you a zip hoodie. So check it out. Once again, that link is inside my video description box. With that, let's go ahead and end this bad boy off. All the gear in my videos can be found in 2 places. 1, my Amazon affiliate link, and 2, my Etsy store. Both links are found inside my description box. Now please do me that favor. Hit that like and subscribe button, and then ring that notification bell. Once you ring that bell, please select all notifications. And as always, thank you for your comments, views, and support. Thanks for watching. Get out in the field, have some fun. I'm going to catch you next time.